The HomeTech Podcast is supported by you. To find out more, go to HomeTech.fm/support. This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, February 15th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
And from Denver, Colorado, I'm Jason Griffin. How you doing, Seth?
Pretty good. Is it cold up there? Because it's started to get cold down here, and I'm
not too bad. Yeah,
it's
not
like
too bad today.
58 out there.
58. Ugh, frigid.
Don't know what to do.
Hey, I had a flow incident this week.
Oh yeah? Yeah. Tell me more.
So you put a flow in, right? I think we talked about that.
I did.
Yeah, and so it's like one of these devices, you put it in and then you kind of forget it's there, right? It does its thing, it protects you, it's peace of mind, all that's great. Well, I was sitting down at my desk working the other day and I got an alert on my phone. It said, hey, we noticed your water usage is much higher than normal right now, and so if you don't take any action here, we're going to go ahead and shut your water off in 5 minutes. And instantly, my mind went to the fact that the toilet upstairs, the previous night, the handle had been a little bit loose. We're doing some potty training in the house right now, and so the kids have been sort of playing with the toilet handle. And I thought I had it fixed, but sure enough, walked upstairs, and the toilet had been running. So I was able to rectify that problem and let the app know. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's a small thing, right? It's not like it prevented anything catastrophic from happening in my house, but it was nice to know that it was looking out for me. So I thought I would share my story because, again, it's like this device, you sort of put it in and kind of forget it's there, right?
Yeah. I've been swearing I'm going to do this like review, right, of this thing, but the problem is it takes forever to review something like this because it doesn't set up like in 5 minutes. But one of the things I did when I was putting it in is I didn't put it in right. Like mostly on purpose.
Well, it helps if you do it right.
Yeah. It was mostly on purpose. So what I did do is I didn't quite tighten. Well, I guess I did. I tightened the threading up, and then I noticed there was a little leak coming out. So I just tightened it up really, really tight, as tight as two. I could get it with 2 wrenches. But I knew that it really wasn't on there really well, and I needed to put some more like pipe stuff on it. So I come back the next day and felt underneath it, and sure enough, there's a little like not a leak, but like a condensation. Like it wouldn't be a drip for hours. So I was like, let's see how long flow takes to get this. And so the other day I got a little thing that said, hey, you've got a small leak somewhere. And you need to fix that. And we're not going to bug you about it. I mean, we're going to bug you about it unless you don't want us to, but it's a small leak. So I thought it was pretty cool that it actually caught that. It must, what I did was I heard it. I was sitting up working here at night and I heard the thing close outside. The little servo motor closed the valve. And then sometime later that night, I got a notification that, there's probably a small leak going on. So I'll have to go out there and fix that one of these days. It shouldn't take much.
Well,
it's a couple.
And Chris Gamble's in the chat room tonight giving you some advice, Seth. Hire a pro.
Well,
next time.
That's funny.
And Eric makes a good point. Like the incident that I had is something a leak sensor wouldn't have caught. So it's kind of cool to have it actually monitoring
exactly
flow and the pressure in the pipe. So, anyways, I thought that was kind of neat and wanted to share.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's pretty cool. I'm enjoying this device, and I'm enjoying the other one that I have that people have asked about separately called, I don't even know what they're called because I don't even look at these things anymore. Sense, which is a energy monitoring thing. And I'm kind of like playing around with them both, but they both take like an extremely long amount of time to set up because they're not, you don't just plug them in and go. Like you have to wait around for a while. So I will be hopefully gathering my thoughts to that. And I put in our live channel, I went ahead and put a picture of what my little leak looked like before I quasi fixed it. And then after I fixed it, that the little bubbles didn't show up there anymore, but it does leak still. So I have to go out there and fix it one of these days.
There you go. All right, well, let's jump into our show. We are going to be joined this week by Giles Sutton, the SVP, Senior Vice President of Industry Engagement over at CEDIA. And we're really looking forward to sharing that conversation with you. Giles joined us to talk about CEDIA's new Member of Excellence program, which is something we'll dive into. And again, look forward to sharing that, as well as some of his thoughts from ISE. He was out there in Amsterdam, and neither one of us were lucky enough to go to that show this year. So we'll look forward to sharing his thoughts on that. So be sure to stay tuned. In the meantime, we're going to jump into some home tech headlines here. Seth, what do you say?
Let's do it.
Samsung has announced its 2019 TV lineup featuring new 4K and 8K QLED models. The company's also updating its Frame TV and Serif TVs. Samsung says its updated lineup features its new Quantum processor, which will help deliver the company's best viewing experience to date. The new lineup will offer 4K models in a range of different series spanning sizes 43 to 82 inches, and the QLED 8K line will be available in 5 different sizes, ranging from 65 all the way up to 98 inches.
Apple is in the final stages of preparing its new streaming video service, according to people familiar with the matter. Apple is aiming to launch the service in early April or early May, and the service will allow its customers to sign up for existing digital streaming products and watch them in the iOS TV application. Apple wants to simplify mobile video viewing by housing content in one app instead of forcing users to launch separate apps for each service.
So does everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Input zero, but this is Apple zero, I guess. I don't know what.
It's cool to see they're getting close. April's right around the corner, so we've been talking about this for quite a while, and we'll be interested to see if they're able to finally get that out there.
There's an event on March 25th, if I remember correctly. I saw that float across the news feed, so that's probably going to be the announcement.
Yeah, I would think so. Arlo, the wireless camera company, generated a lot of excitement at CES 2019 when it announced the Arlo Ultra 4K model. This model, unfortunately, has been met with a wave of consumer dissatisfaction after the release. Customers have experienced connectivity issues and shorter than expected battery life. In the most severe cases, the stream did not meet the promised 4K resolution. Arlo has been actively trying to address the problems via firmware updates, but has decided to pull the cameras from store shelves until the problems are completely resolved.
Well, that's interesting.
Bummer.
Yeah. Savant at ISE 2019 demonstrated two-way integration with Apple TV, showing how anything in the Savant smart home ecosystem could be navigated and controlled through an on-screen display via the Apple TV. The solution was made possible by the long-awaited API for two-way IP integration that Apple announced last year at WWDC 2018. I saw a picture of this, and the rumors that we saw from not rumors, but like there was a dealer event. I forget what Savant calls that, but we were kind of getting some updates from, I think, Robert, who was also getting them like sideways from somebody else. I thought it was like a Savant app that you get to launch on the Apple TV, and not so much an OSD, that it's just an app that is branded Savant and you can launch it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll definitely have to keep an eye out for this. If you're a listener and a Savant dealer, we'd love to know more. I think Chris gets the award for wordplay of the night, Snapple TV. It's a good one.
Yeah. They may have some copyright issues with that one. But.
Speaking of new Apple TV integrations, Crestron also showed off their new IP control of Apple TV out at ISE 2019. This includes the ability to use voice commands via the TSR 310 touchscreen remote, as well as support within Crestron's new home operating system, which, by the way, we'll have a link in the show notes to an article from Technology Integrator that has some cool pictures of that new interface. It looks definitely a nice refresh there. Crestron dealers can now leverage Apple TV, Siri, and HomeKit technologies to enhance clients' lifestyle experience with their Crestron integrated systems.
Yep, that 310 remote's getting a lot of good reviews. It looks like a pretty nice remote, but you pay for it.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
As part of the continued investment in worldwide smart home growth, Control 4 announced the expansion into New Zealand, Switzerland, Ireland, and the Northern Ireland region of the United Kingdom. Augmenting the companies. I'm going to get yelled at by all the people in Ireland and Northern Ireland for like stumbling across that. But yes, I do remember that there are two countries there. Okay. Augmenting the company's current local presence by working directly with home automation integrators in these fast-growing markets.
Yeah. So some plans for growth here. As I understand it, I think at least in some of these markets it was available before through distribution, but they're now offering dealer direct in these markets. So Control 4 continuing to expand and grow there. Good to see.
Yep, I knew that they had grabbed up the guys in New Zealand and wrapped those up and basically just hired the distributor and said, you're now Control 4.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for playing. Cool. Well, let's move into the big headline here of the week before we jump into our interview with Giles. And that is, of course, Amazon acquiring Eero. Reading from the headline here, from the press release, I should say, Amazon has announced that it will acquire home mesh Wi-Fi maker Eero for an undisclosed sum. Quote, "We are incredibly impressed with the Eero team and how quickly they invented a Wi-Fi solution that makes connected devices just work," said Dave Limp, SVP of Amazon Devices and Services. "We have a, quote, we have a shared vision that the smart home experience can get even easier, and we're committed to continue innovating on behalf of customers. Completion of the transaction is subject to customary closing conditions." So this one had people worked up into a lather.
It did. And I don't get it. Like, I mean, Eero was a company kind of like formed. I don't know. It was one of the first ones that were doing like direct to consumer Wi-Fi mesh networking. Like they were the first to roll out the gate with this like super easy, beautifully designed product and app that would just make setting up Wi-Fi easy. Post like when Apple decided they were like no longer interested in making the airports, right? So everybody who was like looking for or waiting for Apple to finally come out with an update on the airports, Eero came out and they said, "Oh, I'm going with that thing because that looks awesome." And everybody moved over there, and for the most part, they've been happy with that product. I think if you talk to anybody who's used Eero, I don't think there are very many like complaints out of the product itself. Like, I think there were some gripes about some like features that went missing between like the version 1 and version 2, but for the most part, everybody was really happy with the performance they got out of the product, standalone product by itself.
I've got it at home and I love it. I mean, I haven't had any major issues. Again, I think it's sort of we were talking about Flow earlier, right? You put it in and assuming, let me say it this way, Wi-Fi is one of those things where you only really notice it when it's not working.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I haven't really noticed it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it's designed to be, right? Like it's kind of designed to sit there in the background and do its thing. And you got yours put in without having to like retro wires around your house to put in a more like traditional system like Ubiquiti or like a Ruckus system or something like that. Like you could get away with popping in these little like, what are they called, extenders in farther parts of the house, and Eero just kind of sets up this nice little mesh network, and you don't ever have to think about it again. And that's really great. So I people are really happy with the product, and then like they sell to Amazon. people kind of have the mixed, reviews on Amazon, right? Like Amazon is one of the companies that like have a direct interest in tracking every movement that you make to, get you on their site and sell you more junk, right? So naturally, people made the connection instantly from Eero being sold to Amazon to now Amazon has a router in every Eero home and knows exactly what each independent device is, looking for on the internet, and maybe even, depending on whether your connection's encrypted or not, like where they are and what they're looking at. I don't know. I've seen some damage control by the Eero guys. Like, hey, this is not what we have in our terms of service, and we were committed to never doing that. Blah 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 blah. But then again, you kind of like there are other companies that have had that stance before when they were acquired by bigger companies, and slowly have made changes over time to reflect what the people paying the bills want, and that. There's no doubt in my mind that could happen with Eero, right? Like, I mean, there may come a day where it's Amazon gives you some incentive to flip on a switch where hey, you get $5 off shipping or free Prime or something if you flip this switch and use our router, and you may think that's great and you want to jump in and be part of that program, and then people who are concerned about their security may not think that's great and either move off or do something else with their Wi-Fi. So I don't know. Like it's to me like it's a big to do about nothing right now. I think it's great that Eero was able to make this exit. I think it's a great exit. But man, the security folks came out just with like I don't know, like conspiracy theories on like what was going on.
Oh
here.
yeah, of course.
It was wild.
And you kind of expect that, right? Like when I get it. Like we'll link to a story in the show notes, HomeTech.fm/245. A good story from The Verge, why Amazon buying Eero feels so disappointing. And, while I think it's a fair piece. I think the headline is a little, I don't know, clickbaity maybe. It's not, the article is pretty balanced, I feel like. And ultimately, like, I empathize and I understand when people make the argument of like, gosh, can't I just have like one device in my home that is not owned by Google, Amazon, or Facebook, or Apple? Like, I understand that. But ultimately, I think this is kind of the new normal, right? You get these like darling products like Eero, and, they have models that like, they're not really set up. I mean, part of me, I don't know, this is pure speculation, but part of me thinks that a lot of these companies, that's the only thing on their mind. Like, let's build a company and try to get bought by Amazon or Apple, right? And that's the whole plan. And I'm not saying I know that about Eero, clearly, but, these sorts of acquisitions are very common. I mean, it makes, people are talking in the chat room right now, and it makes perfect sense why Amazon would do it. Better Wi-Fi in the home for all of the other stuff that they've got going on, speakers, cameras, doorbells, you name it, screens, media sticks, all of it. Chris is sort of pointing that out. So that side of it makes sense. Part of me, again, wonders if there's just sort of a target of opportunity here. And who knows, maybe even if Eero had set out originally to try and sort of conquer the world and stand on their own two legs indefinitely, it's a tough road when you're out there selling this sort of hardware product with such skinny margins. Like, clearly they weren't making a ton of money on the hardware. So what is the long play, right? And I don't think any of us can be surprised when this stuff happens. So I'm simply being pragmatic about it. I understand people's concerns. I don't personally lose sleep over them. There's plenty of other things that concern me in this world more than if Amazon has a little bit of information about my internet usage. They know plenty about me already. I buy so much stuff on their website. They've got a pretty good picture of sort of who I am. And to me, this sort of feels like a drop in the bucket, honestly. Again, I don't really worry about it. I have no plans personally to change my network out. I'll continue to use Eero. Will obviously cross my fingers that nothing major changes, but ultimately, this just means the product is going to be better resourced and, be able to hang around for the long haul with the backing of a company like Amazon, assuming they don't squash it. But I don't see that happening.
No.
I don't see a compelling case for them doing that.
I got to say, like, well, you kind of asked this question, like, what do you expect? Like, we all want these, like, the goal in the smart home is to have, a contiguous, like, all put together, like, complete system, right? And you're not going to get that with, like, every individual small manufacturer out there making it. Of course, these big guys are going to own 90% of the smart home. Like, of course, Apple, Amazon, and Google are going to end up owning that much of the smart home. Facebook, they had their shot with GAFA. They're out. They can't even, they're gone. It's something
that
else
ship
now.
has sailed.
Yeah. So like we were dropping GAFA, but 3 out of 4, it ain't bad. And of course these guys are gonna own the smart home completely in their own realm. So I fully expect. I mean, Google has their own router, right? People really didn't flip out about that when they, came out with their own thing. Amazon has money to buy people and buying a router manufacturer that has great reviews on their website. I'm sure they looked on their website and said, who sells the best? And they bought them, like, I'm sure that was the way that they found Eero. So, I don't know. I'm not worried about this. There are plenty of other options out there. If you're worried about this thing, like, you can move to Ubiquiti or some other enterprise system, and you're going to pay more for it than the $300 or $400 that Eero cost. But you won't have anybody spying on you if indeed that feature does come one day, right? It's completely made up in people's head right now, and Eero could just like hold the line and say, no, we're never going to introduce any kind of feature like that in our systems, and we're going to have these awesome Wi-Fi systems from here on out. So
Right.
I'm happy for him, and like you said, more well funded. We've already seen like the fruits of the Amazon app, the Ring acquisition by Amazon. Like we're seeing like more features, like tons more features come out with Ring, new product lines being launched. So like I mean, this is only good for Eero and the product team there.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. Obviously, the concerns about privacy, again, a lot of information out there. Amazon, of course, says that they have no intention to alter the current privacy terms, which would prevent Amazon from doing any sort of nefarious tracking of your internet usage. Everything is subject to change in the smart home. So, keep an eye on that if it is something you're worried about. But ultimately, I think this will be a good deal for the vast majority of people.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, all of the links and topics that we've discussed here can be found in our show notes, once again at HomeTech.fm/245. While you're there, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter where we'll send you weekly show reminders as well as occasional other updates about the great things going on here in the world of home tech.
Don't forget, you can also join us in the chat room live Wednesdays starting sometime between 7 and 7:30 p.m. Find out more by visiting HomeTech.fm/live and following us on Twitter at HomeTech Podcast.
All right, Seth, well, what do you say without further ado? Let's go ahead and jump into our interview with Giles Sutton, again, the Senior Vice President of Industry Engagement at CEDIA, and let's go ahead and get started. Hey, Giles, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am excellent, thank you, Jason. Thanks ever so much for inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we were able to make schedules line up. I understand you're here stateside for a little while in the midst of a very, very crazy travel schedule. So really appreciate you taking some time out to join us. And we're going to jump in. We're going to talk about CEDIA's new Member of Excellence program. Really looking forward to that. Also, some of your experiences out at ISE in Amsterdam recently. Look forward to jumping into that as well. But just in case we have anyone tuned into the episode this week that is not familiar with you and your background and what you do at CEDIA, why don't you give us just a quick personal introduction?
Cool. Well, thanks, Jason. Yeah, my name's Giles Sutton. My name seems to be impossible to to pronounce in the US. But yeah, Giles Sutton. I am Senior Vice President of Industry Engagement at CEDIA. I've been in the role, I think I'm coming up to about 8 months now, 7 or 8 months. Prior to this role, I was an integrator in London, ran an integration firm called James and Giles. Last 14 years. It was an award-winning firm, CEDIA award-winning, Crestron award-winning, Control4 award-winning. So I'm proud of that. So I feel like I've had a lot of experience on the integrator side in a very, very competitive market, which London is, one of the most competitive and challenging markets, I should probably say, in the world as well. Very difficult and expensive place to do business. And yeah, so I'm now at CEDIA. My role covers a lot of different aspects from membership, the structure of our membership, through to outreach to industry partners, such, in the design and build profession as well. So very wide ranging. I obviously also have the fantastic opportunity to talk about CEDIA with people like you, Jason, as well. So very much an outward facing role. So yeah, super excited to be here. Thanks ever so much.
That's great. Yeah, and I think, and for the benefit of our listeners as well, this idea of sort of having somebody like yourself who's really dedicated to this sort of outreach and industry engagement is a great idea. Talk about sort of the genesis of that role and give our listeners a little taste for, we were talking about before we hit record here tonight, what the next couple of weeks of travel look like. And I thought it was a good sort of example of what you're out there doing, sort of evangelizing for the industry.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, my role is definitely going to be split between industry engagement, clearly, which is sort of internal industry, if you will. So certainly, I'm in India at the moment visiting our headquarters here, but also, in amongst those kind of visits to the headquarters, I'm also out meeting integrators as well, trying to get their perspectives on things from around the US and around the globe as well. So I've also, in the 7 months or 8 months I've been at CEDIA, I've also been to Australia, met integrators there as well. Obviously, been based in the UK as well. So very much sort of internal industry engagement, but also external. So I am also very much going to be evangelizing, as you say, with our industry partners, design and build professionals as well. So next week, I'm going to be attending Design and Construction Week in Las Vegas. I think I'm going to be involved with maybe 5 or 6 different kind of either panel discussions or classroom sort of teaching, which is so exciting. So I'm actually out there really sort of promoting the industry to design and build professionals as well. And we have a whole roadmap for the next for the whole year, basically, where I'm going to be attending a lot of these kind of events, media opportunities, media one-on-ones, road shows, this kind of thing. So CEDIA, since carrying out its strategic planning process, which we've been very sort of open about, we've become very, very focused on approaching designers and architects. So that is obviously a very big part of my role, and one which really kind of resonates with me, because I pretty much built my business based on developing those kind of relationships. So I've always felt when I'm talking to designers and architects, I kind of speak their language. I kind of get where they're coming from. So I think that's the reason why CEDIA hired me, because I think, I can really bring that to the organization.
Cool. Very good. Well, speaking of roadmaps and sort of strategic planning and developing new initiatives, let's jump in and talk about this Member of Excellence program. It's really the main reason I wanted to reach out and engage and catch up, have a chance to catch up with you. We'll jump in and talk about some of the specifics and qualifications and the why behind it. But if you can sort of concisely explain, give us kind of the elevator pitch. What is CEDIA's new Member of Excellence program all about? So
I'm really so excited about this program, and I'm delighted that it actually finally came to fruition, and we launched it at ISE officially last week. We have, it's been in conversation in some of the conversations that I've had since taking up the new role, because I've been so excited about it, and it's been hard for me to keep it a secret, because it's been so long in development. But yeah, it's really a way for CEDIA members to distinguish themselves and to find a way to actually promote themselves as leaders in their markets, essentially. So this really stems from being a CEDIA member for the entirety of owning an organization, and actually at one point, being a CEDIA member was kind of a badge of honor, because there were certain entry requirements to actually achieve that status, right? The market has changed. There are so many companies in our industry, and we know that smart home has pretty much exploded, and it's growing and growing. So we really felt the need to create some kind of way for members to distinguish themselves, differentiate themselves in their markets. Yeah, certainly, and I think I saw the, sort of tagline around this new program: encouraging inclusiveness and celebrating excellence, right? And I think, talk about, is this a little bit of a shift for CEDIA? I mean, in the past, like you said, when CEDIA first started, I think joining it as an integration company, as a home technology professional company, in and of itself, joining CEDIA, like you said, was a bit of a qualifier. And then it sort of got to a point where at least some integrators in some portion of the industry, at least, sort of felt like, I think maybe that CEDIA it was no longer that, right? It was, still maybe an important trade body, but it didn't represent something necessarily special, just being a member in and of itself. So address sort of those. Was this Member of Excellence program sort of aimed at addressing that? And if I understand correctly, giving integration companies maybe a way to separate themselves from just, using air quotes here, just, right, being a CEDIA member? Yeah, I mean, I think it's not necessarily a shift. I think it's really just addressing what the market is asking us for. Our members have been asking us for this kind of initiative for quite some time. I think CEDIA has a role to play in for every type of company, whether you are starting out and just a technology enthusiast, through to companies that are very well established. So I think this is really just addressing a need. I don't think it's a revolutionary shift for the organization. But I think it is a necessary initiative to bring in, and I've been incredibly encouraged by just the amount of applicants that we've had. Literally in just the first week, we've had 40 applications, already gone through the website to actually put in to apply. So I think that is really amazing to see. I think that the idea of this program is really to encourage continual education and development. We feel as an organization that education is the cornerstone to operational excellence within organizations, to employees feeling like their careers are developing. So if you look at the program closely, you will see that really everything is geared around education and certification. That is, the CEDIA certification is the only qualification that exists within our industry. There's no other qualification. To the extent that even within Europe, it is actually a qualification that is recognized by a body called City and Guilds as well, which means it's actually, it's actually a certificate that's recognized by academic institutions. So yeah, I think it's a very CEDIA initiative in that it's about education. It's about also promoting our industry as well through outreach efforts. But it's also about good customer service is also very important. That comes into it as well. And there is a requirement to submit references from 3 customers, but also 2 trade references as well. And we had that drafted by our legal team, and there are questions within those trade references about the standing of the company that they are endorsing. So yeah, it's
So let's talk about that a little bit. So what is it? If I'm an integrator and I'm listening to this and I'm interested in applying, number one, and we'll get into this, is, what does that sort of application process look like? What are the mechanics of that? In other words, is it an online form? Do you sort of do an interview? Give us a taste for that, as well as what are some of those specific qualifications? You mentioned ongoing education and trade references. Walk our listeners through what that looks like.
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, there's two tiers. There's the CEDIA Advanced member, and then there's the CEDIA Member of Excellence. So that's important to understand. So the first thing, I would probably encourage most companies to apply for the CEDIA Advanced member if you have a certified individual on staff. The CEDIA Advanced member, for those that have sort of historical context of the organization, it's are not too dissimilar to the entry requirements that we had at one point, right, to actually join the association. And I, again, referring back to when I set up my business in 2005, I remember when you had to submit even sort of examples of project work as well. So, in terms of the actual submission process, there's an online portal. You just go to cedia.net/programs/excellence. And from there, you can click through to the portal to submit all of the information that is required. The process, if you qualify, if you have quickly identified, that you do qualify, and we can go into some of that detail. The process should not really take you longer than about 20 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes. The time consuming part is probably going to be going to your customers to get those references, and reliant on your manufacturers that you work with to supply their references as well. So you're going to have to go to them, and you have to use the template that we provide to actually go and get those references. Once you've got all that, and you can just submit through the web portal and wait for the verification process to be carried out, which we estimate will take probably between 3 and 4 weeks because of the volume we're kind of seeing at the moment. But yeah, in terms of the requirement, the CEDIA Advanced member requirement requires a certified member of staff on hand. You need to supply those references that I mentioned as well. So the 3 customer references, the 2 trade supplier or manufacturer references, and you need to also be. I say it's like our cheerleader designation. You need to be either a certified outreach instructor, which means you're out there promoting our industry to architects and designers. And there's lots of information on how to get that certification, which is free of charge, by the way. But we can talk. This is a great initiative that I'm really enthusiastic about, but I could talk for hours about. But anyway, yes, you need to be an outreach instructor or a CEDIA volunteer. And, in addition to that, you need to have been trading for at least 2 years. You need to submit all your insurance documentation needs to have been checked as well. So yeah, and then and basically you need to invest for a certain number of your technical staff need to invest in a certain amount of education per year.
Mm-hmm. So really quickly, for anyone who may not be familiar again with that, you call it, I think, the advanced member. So there's CEDIA advanced member and then member of excellence. Number one, the advanced member, is that sort of related? Is this part of the member of excellence release? Or for people who don't know, is that something that's already been there, number one? And number two, am I understanding correctly that being an advanced is sort of a prerequisite? Is that how it works in order to become a member of excellence?
That is correct. Yeah. The advanced is kind of the base level. Exactly. We've not had it before. Absolutely not. This we're calling it the member of excellence program, but there are two tiers within it.
Got it.
The member of excellence designation is what we want our members to strive to achieve, but we recognize that is extremely difficult. And just to talk about that tier just a little bit, that has much more stringent requirements in terms of the education and certification that is required, but also you need to have been a CEDIA award finalist or winner in the past 3 years, which that means that you are the best in class. You've had your work scrutinized and judged by your peers. This is extremely difficult to get. And that's why, we have these 2 levels really. So
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm seeing here on the website. So requirements, it looks like for the Member of Excellence program, craftsmanship, so selected as a CEDIA awards winner or finalist, shortlisted there. You have mentioned also certification. So it looks like a percentage of your full-time technical staff holding a certification that's based on company size. So looking at those smaller companies, 1 to 2 people, it really needs to be everybody. And then you work up, right, to where if you've got a very large company, 50 plus people, it is a smaller percentage of the workforce that has to be certified. Correct.
So, this comes back to how we believe education is, the cornerstone to everything we do as an industry. We are a technical industry. Things are constantly changing and developing. So yeah, we there is a need to carry out training. Just to be clear, this is not CEDIA training. Of course, we would love everyone to be taking just CEDIA courses, but this is it. Manufacturer training, product training does also qualify. It could be for if you're all of your full-time staff. It could also include, management or sort of administrative or marketing training as well. So, it can be non-industry specific training as well.
Got it.
So I think that it's important to distinguish that. We're going to have a lot more education opportunities as an association. By the end of this year, we'll have 72 online training courses as well. Low cost, quick and easy to do, easy to pause, come back to. So we're going to be trying to provide more kind of education opportunities as well. So, and that's all going to be delivered through our new learning management system.
Got it. Very cool. All right. Well, let's shift gears slightly to what you get, right? So obviously, you want to, if you're an integrator, presumably become a member of excellence in order to make yourself stand out from the competition. But clearly, it's not just enough to slap that member of excellence logo on your website and watch the money roll in, right? You gotta actually get the word out. And if I understand correctly, CEDIA is going to offer some additional sort of tools and promotion in order to help those members achieve better visibility. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we've already carried out some work to our Finder service as well. And some people may say, well, I never get anything through the Finder service, the CEDIA Finder service. I never get any leads that way. Well, we're going to be through our efforts with our new PR agency that we've engaged for specifically the design and build industry, we're going to really be trying to drive a lot more traffic to the kind of Find a CEDIA member area of our website. So first of all, CEDIA Advanced members and members of excellence will be priority listed, so they'll rank above sort of basic members as well. So that's the first thing. Obviously, there's the logo that can be used on marketing collateral, but also the trophy as well for our members of excellence, which is a great, everyone loves receiving a trophy. It's a great way to promote your business. In addition to that, there is going to be education discounts and priority, for education booking. But most importantly, when it comes to our sort of PR opportunities, and as I mentioned, we are putting a lot of effort behind promoting our industry to, I can't stress enough, to designers and architects. Our members of excellence and our advanced members are going to be at the top of the pile, really, for those opportunities. And I mean, just this week, for example, we were featured in the Wall Street Journal. We had an opportunity that came to us to talk about media rooms and how the sort of changing face of home theater, how it's not just, I say just, but it's not simply, proper home theater systems. People are looking for multi-use spaces and media rooms, and this is becoming a lot more prevalent. So the Wall Street Journal contacted us for their Mansion supplement, and we spoke to 3, CEDIA award-winning companies, and they are thrilled. I mean, if you look at that, they are thrilled with the coverage that they got. They also interviewed me as well. So these PR opportunities, CEDIA is on the radar of the media. It's going to increase. So this is where we really see the strength. So we at the moment, we know we have a lot to do in terms of just promoting our industry and the organization as a whole. But once we've achieved some sort of foundational kind of work on that side of things, we can start to promote why designers and architects should use CEDIA members of excellence. Why that should be the companies that they look for. So yeah, that's very important. And we also I don't know if you remember the I Am CEDIA campaign, which is a promotional video that we've done for some of our members in the past. We will also be offering that to CEDIA members of excellence as well at a hugely discounted cost. So that is something that we have at the moment. There are more benefits that we really hope to bring to this program as well. We've got some big ideas which I wish I could share with you. Around some of our events that we host, but we want a group of ambassadors that we can sort of drive that are really our kind of our guys. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Very cool. It sounds like you definitely, in my humble opinion, got your sort of mind in the right place in terms of, like you said, building that awareness. And I think that's one of the areas where CEDIA really has a unique opportunity to serve as a voice for and this isn't unique to our industry, the CEDIA industry. We're a dispersed workforce, and we're a lot of small and medium-sized companies. And so, getting out there and having that sort of a platform to speak on and get out to the media and get their attention and get the attention of big builders and architects and things like that at the trade shows that you're going to, I think is a great place to focus the energy, again, in my opinion. So, we're going to shift here and talk about ISE in just a moment. But before we move off of the Member of Excellence program, I know you've got some educational webinars coming up to kind of let the industry know a little bit more about those. So take the opportunity here and plug those and let people know how they can find out more.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, well, as I said, the web address to go to is www.cedia.net/programs/excellence. And on there, you'll find some links to our upcoming webinars. We have 2 next week. The first one on February the 18th. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in finding out a bit more detail than I've just gone into, please do sign up for one of those webinars. We've got 3 coming up. We'll probably offer some more as well. Take-up's been really great so far on the program. So yeah, I would really encourage you to check those out.
Cool. We will have a link to those in the show notes as well at HomeTech.fm/245 if you want to go check that out. So shifting gears here as we wrap things up here for a few more minutes. Giles, I know you were recently out in ISE, or at ISE, I should say, in Amsterdam. Give us an idea of how the show went from an organization perspective. How was the attendance? How was the manufacturer participation? What was that like this year?
Wow, I mean, Jason, this show, it never fails to stagger me, really, on the way that it continues to grow. I mean, again, a record-breaking year for ISE. I think just over 83,000 attendees. The show goes from strength to strength, even in light of the fact that it will be moving to Barcelona. There still seems to be absolute, attendance numbers that just blow it out the water. So yeah, it's amazing show for us. We have a full education platform there. It's amazing to see so many of the US manufacturers over there. So many familiar faces, which is fantastic. Yeah, for us, it's we as I think some people are not even aware that we own half of that show. So I think people and get confused that we actually don't own our expo anymore. So, it is interesting. ISE is such an important event for us as an owner of it with Avixa. So yeah, it's a great show. I mean, for me, some of the highlights was certainly I had the opportunity alongside Avixa to present to 200 students from technical colleges all around Europe, all around Northern Europe. Some came as far as from Spain, from southern Spain to attend, around the Netherlands, southern Germany, from technical colleges doing various different studies from like media technology, sound technology.
And I loved this. You told me about this before the interview, and I think this is so cool. So there's another area where I think CEDIA has a really unique opportunity, right, to serve as a force for good, to solve a problem that really has plagued the industry for so long, which is the labor shortage, right? And this is what you guys were after with this. So talk a little bit about how that went. What was the material like? How was it received?
Yeah, so that's actually, I should touch on that as well, Jason. You're right. We are also super focused on workforce development. And I think unbeknownst to a lot of members, we've actually got 2 people now in our workforce development team. So we're also addressing, I believe, the needs of the industry, and that we want to attract new talent. Recruitment is a huge problem. I know that from past experience myself. So this really comes into the whole workforce development plan. I basically stood up in front of this class of 200 people and told them about the exciting industry that we're in. I mean, honestly, all the students were just staring at me, so engaged. I was so excited about this. I spoke to them about the different roles that exist, the different things that we do, how our industry really suits individuals that have a really kind of broad sort of technical knowledge. So that was amazing. And it was alongside Avixa as well, who did who led also a discussion about the sort of pro side versus the resi. Mm-hmm. And then the students then did a tour of the show. And then they all came back for a Q&A. Super energized. Their eyes sort of lit up as they saw all the technology. yeah, and then they were on their way. And I think it is something.
I would imagine that, ISE, that trade show floor, which I've only had the privilege of attending once, would be quite the eye opener for a group of young students who, presumably before this event, probably had very little of an idea, if any, that this sort of industry existed.
Absolutely. I mean, they were also shocked. I gave them some kind of examples of salaries, of wages that they would that you would get for kind of junior technicians through to project managers, through to business owners. And, our industry pays pretty well, right?
Yeah.
And that's important. I thought it was important to touch on that because everyone thinks workforce development is a technology industry issue, is an issue for our industry, but it's not. We have to fight for these kids, okay? Because it seems to be a problem across industries. That's been my experience of attending some interesting cross association groups.
I was at the Aussie Own conference here in Denver last year, and one of the best presentations I thought of that whole conference was a woman, and I'm going to draw a blank on her name, but she gave a really great presentation, and she was not from our industry. She was from, I think, like the HR recruiting type of field, and she talked about exactly what you're saying, which is, yes, you guys are being plagued by this problem, but this is not unique to you. It's called the middle skills gap, and it's a very, very real problem across multiple industries. So I think your point of making sure that as an industry, the folks in the home technology profession don't get lulled into a sense of this problem is unique to us. We're actually, like you said, competing across multiple industries, which, if anything, I think makes the problem even more challenging and more daunting.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And, from having had discussions with some of our manufacturer members as well, I know that it is definitely on their radar as well. And we've had a lot of manufacturers really pledge their support for this initiative, which is great. So we'll have some financial backing around that as well. I really want to make it possible for members in their markets to be able to try and achieve some element of workforce development. That has to be the end goal, really, is, CEDIA can only do so much, I think, in terms of creating, trying to create some momentum. I think
awareness,
mm-hmm. Exactly. I think I would encourage also members to be able to actually do this in their own areas. And that's something that our workforce development team is working on right now, is actually creating a program. We're starting within the state of Indiana because clearly that's our local, our state that our HQ is based in. But creating a program that is funded by the government. It's government funded, right? So the CEDIA member does not have to pay a penny. Can take it. You can take a chance on that high school kid or college student, and take them basically through a boot camp that basically leads to qualification, to certification. So I'm super excited about that. Once that is live, we can then start to roll that out across the US and then across the globe. So yeah, there's huge opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a huge opportunity. One more question on that, and then I want to bring it back to ISE.
I know. I just remember we just got off on a tangent about workforce development, but it
really,
is also exciting.
Sometimes tangents are okay.
Yeah.
Right? It's an important topic. I'm actually curious how you went about. I think you said you had 200 students. What did the process of recruiting and getting on those folks' radar look like? How did you attract those people to the show to come learn more?
So I have to admit, we've worked with Avixa on this, and Avixa have actually got relationships with technical colleges and schools. So it was really through having a network of teachers. It also has to be funded. I mean, you can't expect the colleges to pay for their students to attend this. So and just find their own way there. So It's funded, so that all the coaches are laid on and the transportation is all covered to get the kids there. So
buses for those of us in the US.
Oh yeah, buses. Yeah, exactly. So that's something I think we as an organization are very keen to do ourselves as well, around our events. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. In the couple minutes we got left here, talk about again, bring us back to ISE. Sounds like it was a very successful show from an organization perspective. What would you say? And presumably, I'm on the vendor side of the business now, so I know what these trade shows are like. You don't get a lot of time to run around and look at all the cool stuff on the show floor. But from your unique perspective and your experience that you had out there at the show, what would you say was kind of the biggest sort of single trend that you picked up on?
Well, firstly, I think, it's interesting being in a slightly different role myself here, in that I've gone from, being an integrator through to an industry role. So I'm spending a lot more time actually talking to, the company executives, the management, as opposed to looking at all the cool gadgets and cool new technology. I'm so enthusiastic about the optimism and positivity that is existing in the industry at the moment. That show that had ISE, there was so much energy there, and that's the first thing that really struck me. The other thing, obviously we're seeing so many more acquisitions, and which is really interesting. It seems every year, there's less companies, I guess, because of the way the brands are being absorbed. So that's interesting. That is probably changing, and I think CEDIA probably needs to consider that there probably are going to be less manufacturers in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That we are. Yeah.
Sort of a sign of a maturing industry, right? I mean,
right.
Sort of a natural market force that, again, is not totally unique at all to our industry, but definitely something here on the show we've been talking about a lot more, is those mergers and acquisitions, and what does that mean? It is an interesting trend. I agree.
Right, and we saw some interesting ones like Control4 acquiring Neo, the remote control, yep. Which was very interesting. Very much looking at it, I think, from a kind of industrial design kind of perspective, on how that can affect all of their user interfaces. The Sonos and Sonance partnership as well. That's and how that works with the, I think it's called, is it the True Image or True Sound, the room correction tool?
Yeah.
Forgive me if I called it the wrong thing there, but it sounds awesome hearing the sort of AB of that. And I was also blown away by the LG sort of the curved screen display they had there, which they had brought over from CES, and the sort of roll away screen that they're doing. So
so the bendable right. OLED technology. Yeah, there's some really, really interesting stuff happening in the world of displays. Certainly right now, that's something we've been talking about as well here on the show. So definitely glad to hear that you had a great time out there. It sounds like it was a successful show. And thank you for taking some time to come on and share with us what you've been up to, and what CEDIA as an organization has been up to. It was really great to learn more. As we wind things down here, Giles, what is next for CEDIA? What's got the team really excited here as we start to move closer to the second quarter of 2019?
Well, I mean, there's just so much happening. And I think, we've had a new board come in, and we had our first board meeting at HQ. And one of the things the board members said the new board members, I had no idea you guys are doing so much. And I think that's, we've got a really big education team now, so much education content coming out, including workforce development. You're going to touch on the outreach efforts that we're doing, and we've got our entire roadmap for that. So, there's just a lot going on, I would say, within the organization, and I'm super excited about where we're moving. So just watch this space. Really, there's a lot more to come, is what I can say.
Sure. And if our listeners wanted to connect with you or learn more about any of the topics that we've discussed here, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Well, if they're CEDIA members, then reach out to me. I'm gsutton@cedia.org. Please just email me if you've got any queries or concerns, or on Twitter @CEDIA Giles. It's probably another good way to connect. So yeah, that's probably the best way to reach me. Otherwise, find me at one of our events. For example, I'm attending a lot of our technology and business summit events as well. Our local events that we're carrying out. So again, you can find out where the local event in your area is. So I'm attending a number of those as well.
Great. Well, Giles, thanks again for taking some time to join us and sharing all you've got going on, and we'll wish you the best of luck moving forward, and we'll look forward to reconnecting soon.
Great. Thanks, Jason.
All right. Take care. All right. Well, that will do it for our interview with Giles. Hope you enjoyed it. I definitely had a great time chatting with him. Seth, what do you say we transition here into our mailbag? I think we got a great one this week.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's take a look at. It's a great one, as in like great in size, because listener
it's a volume.
Scott. Yes, he wrote us a what do they call it? A novella or something like it. It's how do you do 3,000 words on?
It's great
this?
though.
But hey, he did it. Yeah. No, it's extremely good. So, Scott says, first of all, I am in all caps extremely upset with the loss of Neo, and I'm not even a customer. I've been watching them closely and had just been waiting for the technology to mature a bit more before I bit the bullet. Who's in the market for a $300 remote? I certainly am, and I'm not a pro or a custom installer. I'm just a consumer with a moderate income who has a fair amount of technical skill. And then he goes into a number of things that are on his shelves.
Yeah,
like
pretty sophisticated, media room setup, basically kind of outlined all
receiver,
of that.
DVD player. Yeah. He said he struggled with URC and Harmony remotes, getting them set up correctly and doing their thing. So he says, so where do those people who need universal remotes go now, as companies sell out, close up shop, and so on? You claim that we're all early adopters, and this is to be expected, and that we'll need to wait until the dust settles and the stuff becomes more mainstream before we can feel safe. But you're missing something important that's happening. These days, there's so much pressure on companies to turn profits more and more quickly in shorter and shorter time spans that it simply doesn't allow them time for anything to become mainstream. See the Eero conversation we just had. The fast-paced, impatient, short-sighted corporate attitude of these companies live by now fundamentally prevents anything from becoming mainstream anymore. 3D TV, that lasted all of a year. Then curved screens were all the big rage. Not anymore. You have a massive Blu-ray collection? Toss that out because now you need 4K. And before 4K is anywhere near mainstream, they're pushing 8K. Another example of what I mean. The gaps between the new specs and new technology are shrinking to the point where they're too short for any mainstream adoption, for anything to become safe anymore, and for any standards to be worth anything. Consumers are suffering, the technology is suffering, and the industry is suffering. I think DVD was our last solid technology that had an appropriate lifespan. A lot of my media will be forever DVD only and never even have a Blu-ray release. So I'm keeping my Oppo player, the Oppo Blu-ray DVD player. So lots of good stuff here from Scott.
That was the abbreviated
lots
version.
to dive in on. Yeah, we cut a bunch of stuff out.
Love it, Scott. Thanks for reaching out. And I think you make some really great points that there's a lot of cause to be frustrated when it comes to the connected home these days, and technologies do move quick, and it can give you a whiplash, right? I think technologies like 3D TV and curved screens, I would put in a little bit of a different bucket in the sense that, they sort of, pardon my French, but they sucked and nobody liked them, right? But I get it. Like the way technology is moving, and we've talked about it on the show with 4K now moving to 8K. We talked just last week about ultraviolet going away, which is something not mentioned. I don't believe was mentioned in this email. So a lot of great points. But ultimately, I think it is this sort of thing where it's not about dismissing that frustration, but it is about sort of buyer beware, I think is what I would sort of classify when at least when I make statements about, like we were talking about Eero just a few minutes ago, and it's kind of like, well, like what do you expect? Like these companies are going to get snapped up, and it shouldn't be a surprise. And I'm not saying that doesn't negatively impact some people, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't frustrate anybody, but I am saying, like, you got to kind of go into this eyes wide open and take it as it comes. But I do think that the point about the accelerating pace of change and the impact that is having on consumers is spot on.
Yeah. I mean, I like the part there where he says, these gaps. Okay, well, these gaps are hurting like the industry and the technology. I think in the broad sense, it is like, if you go to any like regular Joe, right? Maybe not Scott here, but like somebody who does not listen to our show and does not like have anything to do with technology, and they go to work, they come home, they flip on their TV with their cable box remote, and if they can get it to work, it works, and they watch their TV and they turn off and go to bed, that kind of thing. Like they're not like chasing down these infinitesimal technology bumps that we have every year, right? They're not worried about going from 1080p to 4K to 8K to 16K. They don't care about that kind of thing. And those kind of like numbers and specs and everything are just gonna pass them by. Like, oh, they go to the store and they say, oh, I got this 4K TV. The picture on it looks. They may never even notice that the picture looks slightly better than their previous TV does. So like I classify that type of person is like, that person is the majority here. Like that's really what we're up against as like technology geeks, right? Like there are more people like that who just simply don't care about what specs their TV has, versus like being able to comfortably sit down and watch TV. And I think for, Jason, you're in my career, like it was the custom integrator that had to come in and sit down with people and explain to them like, hey, here's why you should care about having a better VCR picture, right? Like, here, let's put this, what was that called? That Ferragua processor.
Faruja.
You remember those things?
Yeah.
Faruja,
Oh, yeah.
Like I never could pronounce them, but I knew we had them. Let's put that on there and get that VCR looking really good for you. Like, we put all these stuff in to hopefully have and educate our clients. Like, hey, there's a better way of doing this, and you can get a better performing system, and here's why you should like that. Here's the reference material from the movie. Like, if you love movies, why not watch it how the director wanted you to watch it when they filmed it? So like there's that like whole tech spiel or whole spiel that we have that basically puts in this technology for people, and it's a very small, like it kind of goes back to being the early adopter. It's a very small number of people who want that. The rest of the people in the world want to have input zero. They want to be able to turn on and like use the Apple iOS app or whatever they're going to have come out on March 25th and be able to watch TV or whatever the heck they want to get their hands on with one app. Like they don't want to have to deal with all this stuff. So I really think, even after I listened back to the episode last week, I really think that these remotes are just dead in the water today. And outside of like, unfortunately for people like Scott, like not a custom integrator, not a not a pro. But he has a bunch of gear that he wants to hook up, and it's let's be frank here. It's legacy gear, right? This is not how new systems will be designed for the mass market, right? This is how it was designed in the yesteryear,
right?
And this is how a system in my house would be designed, right? This is how I would want everything to be. But even I would struggle to recommend which direction Scott should go here, because I'm not going to tell him Harmony. I'm just not. I'm not going to say go to Harmony.
not going to do it.
Not going to do it. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the truth is that this sort of thing, DIY, is getting increasingly difficult. It's just a tough proposition for companies to come out with a product that can sell for a few $100s and can do everything that a user like Scott needs it to do and still remain profitable. Like, that's not an easy mix for a company to achieve. And so I think, ultimately it is going to be a bigger investment, but if you truly have that sort of a setup, and it's not a light setup. There was a lot of stuff that he listed that was in his media room, and he's not alone. Like, there are plenty of people out there who have that. I think the answer is, thankfully, companies like Control4, for example, are coming out with more affordable solutions. And I totally understand that the thought of hiring a pro and having to go with a system like that where you're sort of dependent on a pro. I think a user like Scott could probably get away with, I think Control4 has some user programming capabilities, Composer Lite or something like that.
If this, then that uses, type thing that they use. I when then, I think is what they branded.
Yeah, that's where I would look, because a company like Control4 is about as stable as you're going to get when it comes to that sort of an offering. But yeah, in the DIY space, I agree. That's a tough landscape, and companies are, I think, just struggling to make it work. I mean, we talked about it. I think it was last week. Like, Harmony is a really, really unprofitable part of Logitech's business. I would not be surprised to see that get spun off or closed down at some point in the future.
Right.
Totally speculating, but it wouldn't surprise me. So I think Scott makes a good point. It's kind of a tough time to be in that position.
Yeah. And even saying like go with Control4 is tough because, I mean, we're not talking a $300 remote at that point. We are talking just the remote being $300.
Oh, it's a bigger investment for sure.
You're looking at $1,500 minimum to get even the equipment in the door to your house. And even then there's like, the programming and install, whatever they have to do on top of that. So like it's not a, but I'll take a step back. That's what it takes for these companies to be profitable, right? Like, it's not a $300 remote. Yeah. Clearly, the $300 remote is not working. I have my concerns. I mean, there are other options out there. We talked about Cavo in the past, and I really like Cavo right now. Like, it's still sitting here on the desk, and I'm not using it, but I really like it. I really like the idea, and I'm willing to like give them $100 to invest in it. But I mean, heck, they've been on fire sale for like $60 now, $60 or $70. So maybe that's something that he could look into. It probably won't fit very well into his system, but and it's not like the greatest remote like in the world, but it is a cool idea. And I got to say, like, at some point it comes to like, if you like these companies that are out there, you are going to have to invest in them if you want them to stick around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be like you can't sit back and watch them get more mature, because once they get more mature, they're going to have options. And I think that's what happened here with Neo. They got really mature with their product development, and Control4 has money, and they needed product development, so they picked them up. But I don't know. Like, I think that everything that he listed there, the Neo remote could have done out of the box, a couple of months back, if not a year ago, and been just fine. But I don't know. Then he would have been out $300. But it's a tough place to be, because you're relying on people to continue to buy these remotes every single year, right? And as I described that first person, the vast majority of people don't want this remote. They want to have the remote they pick up with their TV do everything for them on input zero. And it makes it tough. It makes it tough. Like, where's the reoccurring revenue come from in a company like Neo? If you sell a great remote and it's up and going for 3 or 4 years, like what happens? What happens? You can't expect them to live off $300 every year. I think that's what Cavo did pretty good, is they have that little subscription service that kind of helps them out a little bit. So
there's some really good conversation in the chat room about all of the devices that you might need to control: twin cassette deck, HD DVD, laser disc, VHS player. At some point, these technologies sort of go by the wayside. But
right.
And to your point, the media room continues to evolve, where fewer and fewer devices need to exist as content all moves up to the cloud, and you plug in your streamer and you go digital audio out into a sound bar with, maybe wireless other speakers. Like, for a lot of people, that's enough. And so these mainstream plays, the mainstream plays like Neo, where they were trying to go for the mainstream, just, frankly, may not be viable, I think is what it really boils down to.
Yep. And where the money is where you're going to see the fast development being done. And the bigger companies are going to be able to just reiterate on what they're doing well. Like, Sonos has been around a long time now, 10 plus years, right? Maybe longer now that I think about it. But like, they've been able to iterate on their product, and they're kind of in a tough spot, because their competition as an independent company are the Amazons and the Apples and everything like that. So, I mean, there's one company right there that I wholeheartedly support, even though I don't like some of the things they do sometimes. But it's a great product, and it's worked well for me for a long time, and I need to go pick up a sub just to support them this year, right? I just need to help them out because I feel like I'm not doing my part for Sonos, right?
That's right. That's right. All right, cool. Well, Scott, thank you so much for reaching out. It was a really great email and definitely sparked a great conversation here. So
yeah,
really, really quickly, before we jump into the pick of the week, I'll mention if you have any feedback, questions, comments, picks of the week you want to send us, or great ideas, feedback like that Scott just sent, our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm, or visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out our online form. I really love getting those, especially when they lead to great conversations like this one did.
Yep. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for writing in. This week pick of the week. I ran across this on Twitter, man. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. So picture this, Jason. You buy a new smart door lock. The battery runs dead, and the batteries are always inside. So what do you do? What's an innovative way of getting that thing charged up so you can punch in your code and get in the house?
Don't leave home without a key.
Well, that's one way.
Which sort of defeats the whole purpose, I guess.
That's probably yeah.
No, well, it is a problem. It is a problem, and this picture is a very interesting solution.
So this company, and I have the company here, it's something strange. Amadas, AMADAS, has come up with this smart door lock thing that you actually, it has like a solar sensor in the end of the handle, and in case there's not enough like power inside the battery, you shine your phone flashlight into this like little solar charger for a little bit. It charges up the batteries just enough for you to enter your PIN and open your door. And then it says, hey, after opening and closing the doors, the batteries must be replaced with new ones.
This is not a daily use case.
No.
Yeah.
So I thought
this
that's
is
pretty cool.
Funny. It is it's a neat idea, but I have to say my favorite part of looking at this was it's a tweet, and if you look at least at the time that I was looking at it, the first reply was, "This is a cool solution for a problem caused by a solution to a non-existent problem." And I thought that was great. I mean, it's so true. Like, who needed to really do this? But ultimately, I mean, I get it. Electronic locks are cool. They're convenient. But yeah, there is always that challenge of what do you do if the batteries die? And this is a pretty neat solution to that.
Yeah, and this one actually looks decent. I mean, in the right home, if you had this kind of like hardware in your house, I think this one actually looks pretty good compared to some of the stranger ones that I've seen out there. This one, not so bad.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, as we wind down our show here, we want to give a big thank you, like we always do, to everybody who supports our show, but especially to those of you who are able to financially support our efforts through our Patreon page. If you're not familiar with our Patreon page there, head over to HomeTech.fm/support. Once again, that's HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month will get you a big shout out on air, but every pledge will get you an invite to our private Slack chat, The Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day for the inside baseball conversations about all things home technology. And Seth, as I was reading that, it occurred to me that I should have gone back and re-listened to how we read it last week, because there must have been something sort of magical about whatever we did there. We got three pledges this week at the $5 level, which is awesome. So we're really excited about that and want to make sure that we give our big shout outs to all three of you who came on at that $5 level this week. The Home Technology Association is now officially a patron of the Home Tech Podcast, and the HTA is a pretty cool organization. If you're a professional and not familiar with them, definitely go check them out, as well as Jordan Hall and Rashid Durham. We really appreciate all three of your support. Thank you so much for taking the time and for the generosity to go and do that.
Yep, and I just saw Rashid pop in here into the Slack chat. So I was just say hi over there. But yeah, thank each and every one of you so much. There must have been something in the water. I don't know,
yeah.
Jason. It's
great.
When it rains, it pours, and then this is great. So we're really, really, really thankful for each of these supporters of the show here, and glad to have you on board.
Yep, Absolutely. And if you would prefer not to contribute here financially, we totally get that. There are other ways that you can help us out, namely leaving us a review wherever you download the podcast. Doing so takes just a few minutes and helps other people find our show. So definitely take a moment to do that. We would really appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. And Rashid is actually contributing to the show late in the game here. He mentioned the 7Hug Smart Remote. That one came out. I haven't gotten my hands on that one yet. But I will be curious to see what they're able to do. I do remember that finally coming out. We've had them on the show. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but we had him on the show a couple of times to talk about this remote over the years, and now it looks like they're finally shipping, and I just haven't gone down and decided to buy that. So that one's out there too, alongside Cavo and of course the Logitech, which I will not recommend.
All right, and Josh from HTA has popped in and said hi as well. So we've got 2 of our 3 new $5 patrons here popping into the chat room to say hi.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate that. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for your support. We really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to chatting with you next week. Seth, have a great weekend.
Yep, you too, Jason. Have a great weekend.
Talk soon.